Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Tuesday Abacus free webinar. My name is Perry Paxton Lafferty, and I'm going to be your host today as we go through the different code sets in our Abacus billing and accounting program. Once again, we do have the option to share questions in this webinar. If you simply go down to your panel and fill in the questions there, I will receive them and try to answer them at the end of our session today. So let's go ahead and get started. What we're going to be talking about are the different code sets that are actually located under the File drop-down menu and under Setup. So we're going to start out with the new matter defaults. Now, I'm not sure how many of you have wondered about when you are adding the Bill To link in AbacusLaw and your accounting info screen pops up and it's got all those different fields on it. And some of them seem to be filled out already for us. Well, actually, those defaults come from here. So you have things like the billing format code, which trust account monies may go into, the type of law tax status, all of these different options here that automatically get filled in on the screen that pops up in law as soon as you add a bill to. This is what you want to pay attention to as far as if you do want to change things. These will affect all new matters that you add into your AbacusLaw program. The ones that are already in there, we have to manually change if you don't like the settings that they have. But this is what feeds into that accounting info screen that pops up. So of course you have your billing format code. Okay, you should be putting in here the one you use most of the time. So most of the matters will have defaults that are proper, and you only have to change those ones that are one out kind of thing. Trust account, if you do hold money in trust, Abacus does have a couple default accounts that come along with it. It may be a little different number than what I have, but the idea here is to let it go ahead and default to a particular account number. And remember, we can change anything that does get assigned, so none of this is permanent if you don't want it to be. We have our tax status here, the default timekeeper rate level. Now, this one you may want to think about because let's say midway through the year, everyone in the firm decides to change their rates. Well, we should do it all on the same timekeeper rate line, and perhaps all new matters will be charged out at these new rates. You could actually change this to be another one of the rate levels, anywhere from 1 to 25. And then Abacus will pick up all new matters. It does not affect old matters or existing matters. All new matters that are entered into the program will pick up whatever rate level you have here. Your billing mode, once again, which one do you use most? Okay. Your billing frequency. All right. And then your bill distribution preference. So that's nice and easy, and that is kind of explaining the mystery behind how do those little defaults come into place. Okay, there we go. You save it when you're done, and that'll take care of it from there. All right, next, let's go ahead and go into our timekeeper codes. Now, I do have a bit to say here, okay? First of all, anybody that can bill out for their time must be set up as a timekeeper, okay? So not just the attorneys, not just paralegals and attorneys, not paralegals, attorneys, and secretaries. I mean, anybody. Let's say you have a runner that goes to the courthouse twice a week and you can bill for that person's time. They need to be added as a timekeeper. Now we'll take myself since I'm already in there and let's look at this screen. Obviously the initials pop into place here. You parse out their name to be exactly what you want it, what it should be, and this will be seen, so you do want to keep this professional. The seniority level is basically only for ranking on reports. So in other words, when you go to print your productivity reports, what name needs to be at the top of the list, then who comes second, third, etc. This really has nothing to do with billing. Seniority level is just for printouts. And our default hourly rate. Well, we really don't use this field anymore. It doesn't seem like any firm just has one hourly rate, okay? we're past that point in time. So we'll be looking at the timekeeper rates for that, but we'll get to there in a minute. Type of main or alias. Well, this is only going to be used if you actually have a timekeeper that bills out two different rates on the same bill. A good example of this would be in court and out of court. Maybe those are two different rates you've talked to your client about, and they know you're going to charge two different rates. Well, how do you get the program to work? You know, you're supposed to put in your initials when you enter the time. Well, that's still the case. It's just you're going to have a different set of initials. So let's make myself an example here. I'm going to come back to Timekeeper Browse. I'm going to add. Okay, so obviously I'm going to have an additional me, but you have to have different initials. So I'm just going to use my first two initials and type in my name here. Okay, and I want this to be an alias of my other timekeeper code, my real one, my full name. This is just so that I can enter time with two different sets of initials, one charging in-court rate and the other perhaps charging an out-of-court hourly rate. So I'm going to fill in here my other timekeeper that I've already set up. And now this knows whenever I use PP, the time ticket will come through to the bill, but it's going to look like PPL did it. Okay, it's just appearances here. This alias is simply for appearances. Now, we've added in not too long ago the option to have divisions and job titles. These are not necessary, but for those folks that may have multiple offices, this would be a good thing. There are specific reports that go with this. So, for example, for division, you could do a couple different things. If you wanted to either be able to determine by office site, in other words, am I in the San Diego office? Am I in the Tampa office? You know, whatever I'm in, if you want to call it main office and secondary office, just make sure you set them all up. And then you'll choose that particular office for that person. Okay. Here again, you can do the same thing with job titles. Now, as I mentioned, there's just a few reports that actually take these into account. But for those of you that do have multiple offices and multiple divisions and things like that, you may want to utilize this. So in here, you've got different job titles, if you will. So if, you know, whatever I might be, hopefully I'm not unassigned, but let's say I'm the attorney, you just simply select that option and there you go. Okay, let's get to the good stuff, the rates. So down here on the rates tab, obviously you have room for 25 different rates. Now, I will say I've seen offices with more than that, and I do feel sorry for those folks. But most of us can put together in here the rates for each individual timekeeper, and they will be within 25 different dollar amounts. So, for example, I'm going to go ahead out of here for a moment and pull up my other, let's take my regular timekeeper here that has options already filled out. Okay, so the way I'm looking at this, and this is just one scenario, rate level 1 is going to be for all my new and current clients. Okay, so that's $2.75 an hour at this point. That's what's going to be used in congruence with, remember back we just talked about our new matter defaults and how it's picking up a particular timekeeper rate level. Well, here it is. So if the system automatically is picking up whatever the rate level is on rate level 1, that's what it's going to be looking at right here. Okay, so these two do die together. All right, but I have other clients that I've had for a long time, and perhaps I've grandfathered them in at a lower rate, which is the $200 an hour. So this is going to be assigned on a matter-by-matter basis. So you will see on the matter, you're going to choose one of these rate levels on a matter-by-matter basis to be able to use these different rates. Okay, the third one I'm calling my friends and family. Okay, when they come in and I do work on their cases, I'm not going to charge them $2.75 an hour. I'm not going to charge them $200 an hour. I'll charge them $100 per hour. Now, the name of the game here is everybody needs to have the same number of rates. So I have 3. So every timekeeper should have 3 rate levels. If it's a paralegal or perhaps a secretary and their rates are constantly the same, it doesn't differ by client, well, then whatever the rate is, it's going to appear on all three lines. But the idea is no matter which one of these levels we choose, anybody that does work will have a rate associated with that rate level so that the bills don't come out with zeros as far as dollar amounts go. All right, now there's a million different scenarios you could use here. Maybe you all know particular clients that have these different rates, and you may do it by client here. It's really however your firm works, but we do have up through 25 rates. Now let me show you how this correlates. Under the matter drop-down menu, we're going to go to the first option where matter maintenance is and pull up my first guide. So you're going to see here on his rates tab, this is where it comes into play. So let's get this out of the way here. On this particular matter, remember, everything's on a matter by matter basis here. We're using rate level 1. So over here to rate level 1, that means when I work on his case and I enter time tickets with the PPL initials, it's going to pull up $2.75 an hour for those time tickets. Okay? If I were to change this to rate level 2, okay, and click OK. Now, if we can find my name on the list somewhere here, there we go. Okay, there's the $200 per hour. So this correlates with the actual matter screen itself. Now you can see the danger of if you have timekeepers that don't have rates filled out on these other lines. For example, Michael Weathers does not have a rate level 2, nor does that new set of initials I just set up. So if either one of these sets of initials was used on a time ticket, the rate would come through as 0. So please, if you haven't looked at this lately, go in and check and make sure every timekeeper has the same number of rates. They obviously don't have to be the same dollar amount. We just want to make sure that the charges are going through properly. Okay, oh, one more thing while I'm here. If you wanted to even go up and above beyond that, say this 25 rates just don't work for you, you could come in on a matter by matter basis, open up the rates tab, highlight the person, okay, and you double click. That would then allow you to overwrite that hourly rate and put in whatever you wanted. Okay, so maybe for some strange reason I'm charging $145.50 an hour. I can put that in, say okay, and now that will be my rate, but only on this one matter. You can tell that you have done an exception because of the asterisk that's in place here under the override column. I'm not sure override's 2 words, but there you go. So you know that anybody with an asterisk, somebody has come in and actually made a change here. Once again, only for this one matter. Okay, I think that's everything there to talk about. So let's get back over to our list under File and under Setup. Okay, now we'll move down to, well, we've already talked about the divisions, we've talked about the titles. There's actually the ability to set up a timekeeper budget. Okay, I can't say I've seen a lot of people use this, but you could set up a budget for hours that will actually compare on a comparative report in productivity against what they actually recorded. In other words, the actual time that was either entered and billed or just entered, unbilled and billed, right? So you want to make sure you have each timekeeper set up, and obviously I need to set one up for the new year with the total number of hours. So let's do me for this year. Okay. Oh, yep. I need to put in hours. So I'm trying to think. 40 hours a week. That's 40 hours a week is 160 hours a month times 12. So let's just pump it up and say 2,000 hours. Okay, it's going to go back and automatically divide it evenly among the months. If somebody was going to take vacation one month, maybe you can, then edit this and pump it down to something that's more reasonable for that month, and it does the math for you. So once again, you set this up, and then you can print one of the productivity reports that will actually show you actual hours entered into Abacus and billed into Abacus, either from law or you've entered them here straight in accounting. And what was budgeted and what was actually done. So there you go. I bet you haven't used that one in the past. That seems to be one that kind of keeps itself hidden, tucked away, that nobody knows about very much. Okay, let's keep moving here. Okay, remember you can ask questions through your question key in that GoToMeeting panel, and I'm happy, or go to webinar panel, and I'm happy to answer them. Also, just so you know, you can always send in questions to webinars@abacusnext.com, and we're happy to get back to you with your questions. Okay, you know, if you need immediate support, you probably want to go to the tech team and the AbacusLaw client service engineers, but if you just have a question you want to submit, and we'll get you the answer on a timely basis, it's just not, you know, at the top of the list for the client service engineers to handle. Anyway, back to here. Where were we? Okay, case codes. These are pretty simple. These actually are also in AbacusLaw, and when you add a new matter in AbacusLaw, you assign a case code. Case codes are nothing more than different types of law that you may practice in your office. Okay, so to be able to subdivide reports, to take them down to the actual type of case, it's going to rely on that case code. And here again, there are reports in law as well that you can pull your matters by case type. Okay, Abacus gives you a nice long list. If you feel like you're never ever going to use some of these, you can delete them. Well, you can't here, but you can in law. Okay. These really are, you know, it has to be in law. It is entered in law, but you do have your list back here as well. Okay. Next, client expense codes. All right, now most of y'all have probably been using your client expense codes. These obviously are for costs that are charged to the client, or the client will reimburse you for them. Abacus comes with a list. I'd be careful about deleting too many things off that list. Some of these codes Abacus uses when you're ending client payments and things like that. So you probably want to check with somebody if you're into the full delete mode and want to get rid of a lot of stuff. Just check that we don't actually need those codes. But you can always add to this. Okay, I've put one up here lately. I don't think it's very correct, but bail for jail. All right, so you can add codes in here. And you also determine if they're a hard cost or a soft cost, or if it's a fee type of code. A soft cost, just to get that point out there, because somebody may ask this, soft costs are kind of like the office overhead. You're not physically paying for that cost at the moment, okay? Like a filing fee. A filing fee, you either go online and charge it to a card, or you write a check to the clerk of court. Those are considered hard costs, okay? Things like photocopies and fax pages. Here again, yes, you have to have a copier. Yes, you have to have a fax machine. But when you buy that copier, you don't charge the price of the whole copier to one matter. You know, yes, you have to buy paper and toner and all that other good stuff, but you can't charge that all to any particular matter that I know about. So basically, you're kind of spreading those costs over everything. Okay, so it's kind of like overhead in your office. So things like photocopies are considered a soft cost. Now, something you might not know, within these costs, you can edit them and perhaps add a per item cost if it were to make sense. So for my photocopies, this is a good example. Let's say I charge 75 cents a page. Well, I can just go ahead and put in my 75 cents here and hit done. And each time I go to use this, now all I have to do when I'm entering it through cost and adjustments, simply put in the number of costs and the program will do the math for you. Not a big leap, but any little bit helps, right? So just put in your per item cost. Now, for those things that doesn't make sense, like you don't have two filing fees at the same time for one client, more than likely. So I would not put a per item cost on something like a filing fee. But for mileage and postage, you know, and obviously photocopies might be a good idea. Okay. By the way, there are reports you can print under the matter reports that are all about those different types of costs in here. I think there's 3 of them off the top I can think of that are advanced cost reports that will break things down, you know, in 3 different ways. So don't be afraid to run those after you've been using your costs for a while. So back over here, let's get down to activity codes. Now, I've seen 2 things here. I've seen firms use these. make it mandatory and use them every time they enter a time ticket, so they can also enter what you're doing. In other words, you have different activities. But more than likely, I've seen them use most with task-based billing, with electronic billing or leads billing. In those cases, you have to enter an activity code and you have to enter a task-based code. Well, these are the activity codes that come with the system. Obviously, if you're using them outside of leads billing, you can add your own and use them as you please, but they're specifically set in here for leads or electronic billing. Okay. Next is our time ticket codes. Now, if your firm chooses to enter time directly here in billing, okay, not in law, but directly here, and they're under billing and they go to time tickets, when they're in here and they're actually adding a ticket, you have the ability, when you get down here, to use these time entry abbreviation codes, which are basically what we're looking at here. So what I could do is use a code and then hit my space bar, and the text will automatically pop into the yellow text box. So let's try that. I'm going to type in CC, and I'm going to hit, is it enter? No, it's not enter. See there? It's not enter. It's the space bar, maybe? Oh, come on now. Let me back up here. CC space bar. So CC, the code, then you hit the space bar and it expands what the actual description is. And you can use more than one, okay? If you wanted to, you could use them, whatever. But, or you can press F5 when you're in here and it will bring you the list and you can just pull off the list with a double click. All right, so if you're entering time, and this is only if you're entering time here in billing, do these tickets or abbreviation codes work? Okay. There is a way to do this in law. Okay, I knew that question was going to come up. When you're in AbacusLaw, and I just happen to have it open here, okay, and you're adding a note, when you're here, you could also press your F5 key, but this brings up the macros from AbacusLaw. So you would choose one, hit done, and it would pop into place. So there are two different tables. If you wanted to, I probably would put both the abbreviations on both sides, okay, so that you have them in the macros in law and you have them in the abbreviation codes in billing. So no matter where you are, you can use them. Okay, thank you for that question. I knew that was coming. All righty, you guys are on your toes. Okay. And you're adding these in here on both sides, on law and in accounting. You are actually adding them. And as you can tell, let me show you one that I did do that's rather lengthy. Okay. You can have lots and lots and lots of text. So this really saves you time and accuracy, because I can't type to save my soul. So I definitely am a fan of these abbreviation codes or the text macros in law. Okay, and we're moving on down to task-based billing codes. Well, those of you out there that have to do this electronic billing know who you are. I think it's mainly insurance defense legal work, where you pass your bills through to a clearinghouse, if you will, that monitors the bills and makes sure you didn't spend too much time on any particular task and activity code. So Abacus, when you're doing task-based billing, will demand that you pull one of these codes, and usually for time tickets is the codes that start with an L. Okay, you've got your E codes for expenses, of course, because we have to have our task-based codes for expenses as well as for our time, our labor for legal work. So you can see all the L's that are in here as well. So these have already been supplied to you. If there are new ones set up by the ABA, Abacus should include them in their list. So if you see something or something that we don't know, please let us know so we can update the list. But these have been tried and true for many years now. Okay, now while I'm thinking about it, let's jump back up to those client expense codes, because we're talking about task-based billing. And not only do our time tickets have to have a task-based code, so do our expense codes. So for example, say certified copies. Let's edit this. And you could see on the screen There's also a task-based expense code that you want to pre-fill in here before you start using the program, so that when you do enter your expenses, they automatically are assigned the appropriate task-based code, and that, of course, comes through to the client's bill. Okay, so not only on the time tickets, but also on your expenses. All righty. Okay, where was I? I interrupt myself all the time. Okay, billing email templates. This is something that's fairly brand new, I'd say. Basically, Abacus has now given you the ability to use more than one old default billing email template. Okay, there was only one for the longest time, and folks started saying, hey, you know, I've got more than one type of client. I may want to customize it a little bit. So they've opened this up now where you can add as many different email templates as you would like. This is my default that works for most of my clients, and anything in these brackets, you know, these funky looking brackets, that's kind of programming, if you will. So unless we don't want any of that, you know, it won't go into the matters and pull the matter description if we take that out. So be very careful though there. But you also can have other codes, set up new ones. This, let's see here. Let's see here. Up, back. Okay, thank you very much. I don't really need to save a blank one. My little fingers are clicking the wrong way. So you could set up like an hourly email template, use that one instead of the default. And what you're doing is after you have set it all up the way you like it with all of the, you know, address lines, etc., for your name and address to appear there, on the matter screen itself, back to matter maintenance. This has so much to do with what's going on in the billing side. Is on the billing tab, you now have the center bottom the ability to pick which template you want to use for which matter. Okay, so I could say if this is an hourly case, use my hourly template, and there you go. But you have to, of course, have them set up here first. So go to town, have fun. Just remember the things in the brackets are programming, and this is going to pull your firm's name where it says company name, the invoice number that is being generated, the matter description that is being used at that time, and automatically put them into place. So be careful about deleting that stuff. But that's kind of fun, right? More than one now? Oh boy, we're in the big leagues now. Okay, and billing format codes. Well, I bet y'all are pretty familiar with these. This is where you can do a lot of customization for your firm so that you have your own look to your invoices. Now, this is the actual invoice, okay? This isn't the email that goes with it if you email bills. Okay, this isn't the cover page. This is the actual bill itself. So I have a lot of extra ones in here, so don't be confused, all right? Normally, you either use hourly for hourly cases. I like to say use GEN for my flat fee cases, unless, of course, I've actually scheduled out what their flat fee payment should be, the dollar amount, and the actual date they have to be paid on. That's a scheduled flat fee, and that is a different format from any other in here. And, of course, we have our settlement statement format that's used for generally contingent cases. So those are the main ones. You know, there's some add-in things here. Oh, task-based billing. I can't leave that one off the list. For any case matter that is electronically going to be billed, you have to use this TBB as the billing format code. Where? Bet you know this already. On the matter screen, on the billing tab. So here on our billing tab is where we would put that in. So if this was a task-based electronic bill, we put that in, and that is what makes it and activity codes, task-based codes for time tickets, and also put it in the LED format so you can export it successfully. So that is a big deal for task-based. Otherwise, you're using any of the other ones that are on your list. And you could set up different ones. You could set one up for partner A and a different one for partner B. But I certainly wouldn't go to the extent of setting one up for each matter. You know, who wants to do that? There's got to be some generalization done. Now, inside the billing format codes is where all the fun is. So let's just take our hourly, for example, and edit. And here is where you can put in your little custom message. You've got up to 5 lines. They center themselves underneath the recap section or the back bottom of the bill. This is where these words show up. So this is where you say thank you or go pay at the website or whatever it might be. Then on your reporting options, this is how we pick and choose what's actually going to show on the bill as far as our time tickets go, the totaling of the time tickets. If you do want your trust recapped onto the bill, that must be turned on. These two should always be turned on if you ask me. Show the last date of payment, so kind of kick the client if they are not paying quite on time. And you have to show previous balance if you are showing payments received. That's only fair. Okay, you can't just show payments and no previous balance. If you are doing task-based billing, of course, you would check that box for that particular code. Here, if you're doing contingent work, personal injury type matters, you would check that box. This would have its own format, as you saw. This one you want to check with your state. I'm not so sure that every state allows this. This is charging interest on interest. Okay, so check with your local jurisdiction. Then we've got more in here on our Format Options tab. Do you want the letterhead printed instead of having to buy fancy paper? Place the invoice number on the bill. I think that's a good thing. Include the payment details section. I like that one, so the client gets a clear picture of what they've paid. Aging, if you got to nudge them a little bit. Hey, look how old your debt is to this firm. And prior balance invoices. I like that. If you accept credit cards, but you are not using APX, which of course we prefer you use APX, which is the Abacus Payment Exchange, this option here will actually print a separate page if you turn it on, and it will list what credit cards you accept, and it will put all the lines for them to make their signature on, put in the expiration date, the little boxes, of course, for the card number if we still do things that way. Okay, so this adds an extra page to the bill. But if you're using APX, you certainly do not want to use this because APX automatically goes out and charges the client credit card, collects that money, and puts it in your bank account. So it skips this step here. Over here, we have the ability to show every person that worked on the case is the detail format. You know, how many hours did they work at what rate? Or if you choose summary, it's going to take that section out. The section's actually called Timekeeper Summary, which is a little odd considering the terminology we have here. But if you have detail, it will show. If you have summary, it will not show. Now here you can put in just the initials, but in the recap section, it will put in their name. That's why I said when you set up your timekeepers, make sure it's professional. Or you can actually have next to the time ticket the entire name. It kind of squishes the columns on the page because there has to be room for the timekeeper's full name, but that's an option. Cost detail level, I think the more details, the better. The date of each cost and check number if you're using the AP section of the program. Or if you'd rather not, what the summary version will do is it will take all credit, or I should say costs. Okay, let's say there are 2 filing fees this month on this bill. It will combine them together in $1 amount, which could be confusing to the client. So, you know, if we want to make sure the client totally understands everything, I might go with the detail format and then show the date on each cost. Okay, I did skip over the fact that we do split billing for those of you that have cases that need that. In other words, the fee and the cost are going to be split percentage-wise between many parties, kind of like a class action lawsuit. And this option here is all about split billing. Okay. Okay. Oh, one last thing here. You can go into this itty bitty baby little edit button here and looky there. We are actually into crystal report coding. So this is programming. You know, some of this makes no sense to me. It still doesn't after all these years. That's because this is actually coded by programmers. But you can come in here and move things around. You can change fonts. You can go into sections. One of the big sections is the subheader RPT. And you open that up, and now you've got all kinds of other things to deal with in here. You know, where the names are showing, where their addresses are showing. If you want to take some information out, that is your right. I would simply not do this at the same time as trying to get bills out the door, because you want to be able to concentrate and make sure it's correct. Once you delete something, it's gone for good. So I would make a copy of a billing format before I started editing it. In other words, make up a new one and edit the new one rather than one of these that already come with the program. Okay, did we cover everything? Let's see. I think we're getting close here. Now, you know, there are one-on-one classes we have that you can get to from our website, abacusnext.com. And you can schedule right there on the website for any particular date, any particular time, for any particular class. And then we can hold one-on-one classes with you and as many members of your firm as you would like. Okay, yes, there is a charge for those classes, but we can get into more detail than just sitting here talking out loud and not having anybody really respond. Okay, file setup. All right, one last one, payment codes. All right, this is new and it's kind of cool. If you get tired of typing the same old thing, or maybe many different things on your payment description line, so it's used here under payments received. And we come in, add a payment. Let's go get somebody that owes us some money. Okay, so we come down here, we enter our payment, because of course we have to do that first because it will yell at us if we don't. When you get here, you can press your F5 key and these will pop up, and then you can choose whatever you want and it will put it into place. If I didn't have it open when I was in here, let's try this again. Take that out, press F5. There it is. So paid with cash. Okay, double click, pop that into place. This doesn't save you a lot of time, but it may make all the responses the same instead of everybody putting in their own words. Maybe you like to keep it uniform. So that's that one. Okay, good, right? That basically is all of the different codes that come with the billing and accounting program. These down here are really for the accounting side. And these really you want to talk about, we can talk about in an accounting class. These aren't really used at all with just the billing side of the program. So these are strictly accounting. So I hope this has been informative for everybody out there. And once again, you can send your questions to webinars@abacusnext.com or abacuslaw.com. That one still works. It's just that we've changed the corporate name, so it's Abacus Next. That's the best bet. Send your questions in. Look on our website all the time for upcoming webinars. We try to have, I think it's 2 or 4 a week. I think it's 2, for each product. So for Abacus, we try to have 1 law and 1 billing. Okay, so stay tuned to see what's coming up. I appreciate your time and patience, and hopefully I will talk to you all soon. Thank you very much. Have a good day.